So, Josh, what do you do if the girl's father tries to maintain authority in the relationship during betrothal?
All right, so he's trying to. He's probably come up on some specific topic that he says, "No, I want my daughter to work today." You're saying, "No, she's gonna go to out to dinner with me."
Right.
Whatever
Yeah.
it might be.
Yeah.
A few times situations I'm aware of, it actually came down to a biblical issue where the young man had a conviction that the father-in-law didn't share.
Right.
And those are the trickiest ones right there because you can't compromise your conviction. So here's the problem. The problem is that the girl is the person caught in the middle.
Yeah.
She's the one that's going to be dealing with flack one way or the other.
Mm-hmm.
So which side do you want to take? You want to say that this is from the young man's point of view? I would say be as considerate, as flexible as possible to allow your wife to do what will honor her father. If it truly does come down to you can't let her do this because it's a scriptural issue, then you need to be the one to stand up for her and take the flack. You need to be there talking for her, not tell her, no, you can't do it. You just have to tell your father that you're not going to do it and let her take the brunt. You need to do it yourself. You need to stand up. You need to be the husband, the man in the situation. Man up and talk about it. Maybe you can come to a compromise. Maybe the thing that he thinks his daughter needs to do can be done on a different day. Maybe,
Yeah, I agree. From the groom's point of view, don't get in. First of all, don't get involved in a situation with the man that you know is like that. I'm serious. Okay, so if you're dealing with kind of a Laban character, don't do it. But if you find yourself,
girls,
I know. If you find yourself in that situation where you're dealing with a father-in-law who doesn't want to release his authority, I would say be as accommodating as possible and get to the point where he believes he's relinquished his authority as quickly as possible. And honestly, I don't know what else you can do. I mean, you can try and make a big stink, but if he really pushes it, he might try and call the whole thing off, and it's like, and then you have to deal with the girl, and it just be as accommodating as possible and just get to the point where he thinks he's given his authority over as soon as possible.
And if you're really facing these scenarios, hopefully that your bride is on board with you being the authority. If she's on board with that,
makes it a lot easier.
Then you have a lot more options. If she's not on board with that, then you've got a bigger problem that you probably should have communicated before you even got betrothed.
Right.
That really should have been addressed before you got there.
Yeah.
If you get there, you can't really do anything about it. Probably the best plan at that point would be to just, if it's a spiritual conviction, you feel like she's sinning by obeying her father instead of you, you can't really stop her from sinning. Even after you're married, you won't be able to stop her from sinning.
Right.
So you just have to let that happen. You have to, you pray for her forgiveness, just like 1 John says. But you're gonna have to let that go. That's gonna be a tough thing to do, but you actually do have to.
Right.
Because you can't throw off the marriage based on that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
It's still a marriage. It's a husband and wife thing.
Yeah.
You need to push through to the point that you can actually be married, where everyone understands the situation the same way.
Right. And heaven forbid the father try and call the whole thing off because he's not relinquishing his authority, and say there's some issue and you've decided to stand up and you're like, no, she's not doing that, and there's like, well, then this is done. If that's the situation, I would honestly, I think you have to go to the girl and say,
your wife.
Your wife. You go to your wife and say, you're my wife, and your father doesn't have the authority to call this off, and we are married, and you're coming with me now.
In some cases it might be able to be solved by moving your wife, helping her move to a different house of some other spiritual mentors that she has that she could live with, it wouldn't be forced to have the wedding right then.
Yeah.
But in some cases, if that's all there is, it's better for you to take her out of that difficult situation for her, to protect her, to be a husband. Husband is someone who protects. It would be better for you to protect her from that conflict, from those problems, as a favor to her, than it would be to just sit back and let it blow up into pieces.
And I guess, the opposite side of this, from the girl's point of view, from the wife's point of view, she needs to understand that when she gets betrothed, she's no longer under her father's authority. She's under her husband's authority. And her father can't annul her vows at that point. Her father can't call off the wedding. Her father can't make her do anything per se.
She's still supposed to honor her father.
Yeah, she's still supposed to honor her father and mother, but the authority has passed to her husband at that point. And so if her husband, says, no, we're married, and her father says, no, you're not, you're married.
Right.
And so if the young woman, the wife is in a situation where her father's asking her to do something that her husband thinks is a sin during the betrothal period, she should obey her husband.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it's basically the same idea. If you go visit someone's house, you're married, husband and wife, go to visit another house. Does your wife obey the house rules? Yes, she does, unless they conflict with what the Scripture actually says, what her husband actually understands the Scripture to say. Yeah. In which case, you might have to leave the house as a couple. You might have to leave the house.
Right.
But to whatever extent possible, you're living in someone else's house. You're going to be keeping those house rules. You're going to be honoring the head of that household.
Right.
To the extent that he actually deserves to be honored.
And from the father of the bride's point of view, he should know the moment he gives permission for this man to marry his daughter and they get betrothed, his authority is over. Once they're betrothed, it's over. And he shouldn't be trying to pull this fatherly authority card, because he doesn't have it to play anymore.
Yeah. And sometimes it may even go the other direction where the father says, well, I can't have my daughter doing these things in my house. You need to come get your bride, or you need to move her somewhere where she can have the liberty to do this.
Exactly. Because
it could go both ways.
Yeah, it can go both ways, because the father's like, I understand she's under your authority and you don't think this is a sin, but I think it's a sin and it's causing my other children to question whether it's a sin or not, and so she needs to be taken somewhere else.
And if that has to happen, it's best for those things to happen before the big fight. Yeah. It's best to keep those relationships as intact as possible. Yeah, we all have conflicts in relationships. Relationships are made up of conflict and conflict resolution.
Right. In a perfect world, though, the father of the bride recognizes he's no longer the authority. The bride recognizes her husband is the authority. The husband recognizes he's the authority. And the father of the bride would never ask his daughter to do something against her husband's authority.
Not on purpose.
So that's a perfect world. And if everyone is of that mindset, this situation shouldn't arise.
Right. And a lot of these cases, all it takes is actually talking about it to, oh, I forgot that you had that crazy conviction.
Yeah, exactly.